Hello, and welcome to this Analyst Angle discussion. I'm Bob Laliberte, Principal Analyst with theCUBE Research. And today we're diving into one of the most relevant topics in enterprise IT, and that is how AI is reshaping IT operations and observability. And joining me is Shailesh Manjrekar, Chief AI and Marketing Officer at Fabrix.ai. And for those of you who may not know, Fabrix.ai recently rebranded from Cloud Fabrix and is developing solutions incorporating Agentic AI for IT operations. Their platform brings together data, automation, and AI fabrics to deliver intelligent agents that can help enterprises cut through the noise, accelerate problem resolution, and achieve some real business outcomes. So thanks for joining us, Shailesh.
It's a pleasure to be on your show. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to have some fun today. Certainly, we'll make sure we're going to explore what it is you're doing in the market, what differentiates you, how your AI agents actually work, and also cover some of the benefits I think that your customers are realizing. So with that, why don't we get started? The AI ops and observability market is a pretty crowded space. I'm wondering if you could explain to everyone how Fabrix.ai, Agentic AI platform differentiates itself from maybe some of the traditional AI ops and automation tools that are out there, and what unique problems it's solving for enterprise IT teams.
Yeah, no, I think that's the great question, Bob, right? So let's step back. And if you look at the AI ops and observability market, you'll find that it's really a fragmented market, right? And it's primarily for a reason, because this space is so complex, right? You're dealing with a multitude of different domain-specific tools. You're dealing with different data types. You're dealing with, AI ops, which used to be based on, supervised learning, right? But more importantly, the last mile problem was kind of an inhibitor for where we were, right? And what I mean by that is still the kind of practitioner had to kind of bring in his expertise when he's analyzing the dashboards, when he's looking at tickets and so on and so forth, right? So the last mile action was still not automated, right? Or you are not leveraging AI for that. And that was a problem. So that's kind of the first phenomena. The second phenomena, as you see, right, Agentic is real, right? So there are Agentic applications and LLM kind of cropping up, and they're kind of proliferating across the space, right? So now, in addition to the assets and, your traditional cloud native environments and the traditional three-tier environments, now you have to deal with yet another kind of facet, which is this complete agentic world, right? Agentic workflows and AI agents. So how do you cater to that? So observability and AI ops had to change, right? So we feel that the agentic approach, where you're putting LLM at the center of decision-making, has a promise to actually cater to both of these issues, right? And many more. So LLM, as you can imagine, right? So now have the ability to what we call, right? The operative word is react, right? It's basically reasoning and acting. That means they are able to reason, they're able to deliberate, and finally actually take the action which was lacking in the previous approaches, right? However, there are extreme challenges associated with LLMs because they are still stochastic processes, right? They are non-deterministic processes. And really the success of an enterprise operational intelligence platform depends on how you are able to provide guardrails and work around these challenges, right? So that's precisely what we have done, okay? And we'll talk about it as we go along, right? But one quick thing to point out is there's a lot of hype around agentic, right? And when people talk about agentic workflows, it's simply about, hey, I'm going on a vacation. Can you book me an hotel or reserve my taxi and so on and so forth? Here in the operational intelligence world, what you're dealing is with real-time data, right? You're dealing with time series data. You're dealing with, incidents. You're dealing with alerts. And that's the reason why your operational intelligence or the agentic platform needs to be completely a kind of enterprise grade, right? And being able to cater to streaming data and so on. And I'll kind of expand on that as we go along. But the platform, what we have developed is really kind of custom built, right? Or enterprise ready for this particular use cases.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, so much of the modern IT environment is so complex these days. So the ability to find and problems and then quickly remediate them, and is going to be obviously a huge challenge for organizations. And so having that visibility, having those automated workflows are going to take a lot off the plate of those operations teams who are trying to sort through all that data and figure out what's going on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things I want to touch on with your platform, it really emphasizes the importance of a data fabric. And so I was wondering if you could walk us through why that unified data foundation is so critical for these AI-driven IT operations and how that's helping to reduce complexity for customers, especially in these large distributed environments that we just talked about.
Yeah, no, I mean, that you're right on the spot, right? So see, I mean, we realized that AI is only as good as data at hand long before, right? Even when we were doing AI ops. And that was really the genesis of this data fabric. And what the data fabric really it does, right? When you are especially dealing with this real-time data, streaming data, right? And you're dealing with AI agents, it provides you the context, right? So what we do is we have through the data fabric, we have the ability to connect to almost disparate data sources, right? I mean, we have, and it's something what we call bot-based. So it's kind of a pre-built connector, if you will, right? Like a function as a service, which is event-driven. And we connect to about 1,700 plus commonly encountered data sources through these bots. And we do the real-time topology discovery of the environment, right? And we bring in all of this metadata into the data fabric. So that's what we call enrichment, okay? And this is very different than the traditional RAG approaches, what you would see associated with AI agents, or for that matter, even agentic AI, right? Where you are just dealing with, it's still, it's better than, an trained model, but, you're bringing in real-time data, but it's still index data and so on and so forth. Whereas in our case, the data fabric actually goes and looks at all of this real-time data. It normalizes this, it enriches it, and it provides a semantic layer on top of that, right? Which is the most important thing. So because you don't want your LLMs to hallucinate. So that's really the value of the data fabric. And, we just morphed it to kind of match to the agentic era requirements, right? So we had the data fabric for a long period of time, even when we were doing AI ops. That was kind of our critical differentiator. And what it does is it shrinks your POV cycles significantly, but more importantly, brings that curated data set, which is an extreme need for ensuring that your LLMs are not hallucinating, right? And in addition to that, we also have pipelines, right, which Gartner calls telemetry pipelines as part of this data fabric, which allow you to route data to multiple different sources and sinks. It also provides you data management. So there is a lot which is kind of, put into the data fabric, which is one of the critical building blocks for our agentic platform. And it's also low code, by the way.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And it certainly sounds like it's going to save organizations a lot of time from trying to build their own pipelines, trying to connect to all those different sources of information and route them to the appropriate locations. So with yours, it abstracts some of that complexity on the back end of getting all that data, and it enables them to accelerate the time to value with the data that they are collecting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have found that is so crucial, right? And that's why, as you said, this platform is custom built, right? So we have not leveraged any other off-the-shelf framework like, Crew or AutoGen and so on. In fact, some of these frameworks which are very prevalent in the BI world, they cannot even handle streaming data. Like Crew cannot handle streaming data, right? So this had to be custom built. Okay, but yeah, you're absolutely right.
So, and that brings up the next question I wanted to ask you is, given the challenges we just discussed a few of them, but what are the most common operational challenges that organizations are reporting? Is it alert fatigue, slower incident resolution, a lot of inaccuracies in their CMDB and things like that? I'm wondering if you could touch upon that and then maybe talk about how your agent-driven approach addresses those in practice.
Yeah, no, I mean, frankly, the challenges are all of about what you just mentioned, right? And, it's because of these siloed tools which are generating, alerts which are not cross-domain. They don't have the cross-domain context, right? And that's why you are kind of acting upon each of these alerts as an incident. You're not able to correlate them correctly, right? Even for that matter, as I said, the advent of agentic right now, it kind of brings in a very different challenge. For example, the traditional practices like ITIL, which all of us are used to, or SSCM, right? A Services Asset Configuration Management, right? This have worked well in their traditional cloud native and kind of three-tier application but now they are faced with yet another challenge, which is this advent of AI agents and agentic frameworks, right? So all of this is changing. In fact, one of our kind of key differentiators is really the ability to do this real-time topology discovery and bring in that context. So a lot of customers whom we interact with, even though they have CMDBs, one of the common use case they ask us to do is, hey, now that you have discovered all of these assets, you have built in those application dependency maps and those metadata environments, can you update our CMDB, right? And with many of the leading CMDBs or ITSM solutions, we have bidirectional integrations where we can take data from them, but we can also update it, right? And that becomes now a real source of truth, and we become the element to actually make that happen, right? So those are some of the approaches, what we've been kind of following. And plus now, because of this advent of AI agents and LLMs, that shadow IT problem has almost kind of exacerbated itself, right? Yeah. And they have become ephemeral and so on and so forth. So that topology discovery or that context becomes extremely important.
Got it. So obviously people have large, complex environments. Obviously, the bigger the company, the bigger the environment, more devices. I wonder if you could touch upon just really briefly, how long does it take to get this solution installed and for organizations to start getting kind of measurable improvements after they've deployed your solution?
Yeah. So again, as I said, because of, our bot-centric approach to solving, kind of providing that data source integration and the data ingestion, that's a big win, right? When it comes to, the POV cycles and so on. Plus it's low-code environment. If you look at the agentic platform itself, a lot of these things are kind of operationalized or automated through a framework, what we call agent ops or agentic ops operations, right? And that's kind of the major kind of contributor into how customers are quickly able to kind of get to the value, right? But to be frank with you, right? I mean, this is all so new, right? Trust is obviously a very important aspect, right? So you got to be able to build customer trust. So most of the improvements to begin with, we see from a productivity perspective, right? That, okay, what your practitioners were able to do, you are now able to do them to the LLMs, right? And you're training those LLMs as we go along. You are evaluating them. You have, feedback loops. You have, performance evaluations and so on. And it just keeps getting better and better, right? So productivity improvements is kind of right out of the bat. And to answer a question, it can, depending on the complexity of your environment, it can take anywhere from weeks to months, right? Couple months, okay? And obviously, the traditional practices have not moved away, right? So we start with the POV or a POC, demonstrate the value in a smaller environment, and then move on to the larger environment, right? And we do have several now kind of marquee customers across different verticals, right? In healthcare, in automotive, in telco and service provider environment, where the environment tends to be extremely complex, as you can imagine. You have different domains, right? You have RAN, you have campus, you have optical, you have mobility, right? And because of our heritage being from a networking world, those are some of the use cases and customer environments where we are able to kind of excel ourselves.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. It's pretty consistent with what I hear. I mean, one of the things everyone needs to keep in mind is this is more than just technology, right? There's also the process and cultural aspects of it. And that I refer to it as that time to comfort with the technology. No one's going to blindly turn on a fully automated response system until they have validated it in their environment and they know it's going to be delivering the appropriate responses, because first and foremost, while you want to be able to improve and do all those things, you need to make sure you're operational and this doesn't cause anything to come down or make a change that's going to cause an outage. So completely understand that there's going to be a variation depending on that company's adoption and their attitudes towards AI and how quickly they can validate it. Speaking of AI, right, and agentic AI, as you said, that's sort of like the hot new thing right now. I'm wondering if you could walk us through how your AI agents work, how they're built, governed, and become ultimately trusted, and what guardrails you've put in place to ensure that reliable and safe automation of these IT workflows.
Yeah, so I think, as a simplistically put, what we do is we leverage AI agents to, monitor, obviously, and observe the AI agents themselves, right? But also this is an agentic intelligence platform for operational intelligence, right? That means we can cater to bespoke use cases. That's really the power of the platform. You can have a partner build his own agents, or you can have even end customers build his own agents through simple conversational phrases, which is prompts, essentially, right? So the platform itself, we, as I said, we leverage Agent Ops as a framework, also known as Agentic Ops, to operationalize this platform. And what I mean by that is, an user comes in and a practitioner comes in and it says, okay, well, this is my prompt, this is my goal, or this is my intent, which I need to achieve. And from there, the platform allows you to choose an AI persona, which is relevant for this particular prompt, right? And the reason why we have personas is that's a level of guardrail, right? That, a persona, which is a level 3 engineer, will have a separate set of access to tools and data sets than, say, a CIO, right? Who doesn't need all those tools, right? And when I say tools, I'm talking about MCP tools, right? So the personas is a very important kind of a construct to provide that guardrails. But once you have chosen that persona, we look at, hey, does there a tool set exist, right? And I'm again talking about MCP tool set to solve this particular prompt, right? If not, we can create a tool set dynamically. That's one other differentiator what we have in our MCP server. So our MCP server is data-driven. That means you can dynamically create a tool set. We provide a YAML file where you can provide the necessary inputs and you have a new tool set created. From there, the next step is to create a prompt template, because as I said, LLMs are kind of, non-deterministic. So you got to be able to provide them some guidance when you are kind of providing them almost 200 MCP tools, right? And again, as much as I want to stress on this, right? So as much as there is promise of LLMs and agentic, right? There are also challenges, but the promise is humongous, right? I mean, it's really transformational if you think of MCP itself. So earlier, we used to have this if, then, and else statements in our logic. Now what you're doing is you're taking this MCP tool sets or the tools, right? Which is kind of a manual, and handing it over to the LLM and saying that, hey, this is the goal I want to achieve. You figure out what are the right tools you want to use to solve that problem, right? And that's kind of transformational, right? But having said that, you also need to ensure that there are no hallucinations, and that's where the prompt templates come in, right? So you provide some level of determinism to that LLM. So that's the prompt template. Then we also provide your Copilot where you can test these prompts, right? Ensure that, hey, underlying stack is kind of responding to the way you want it. And then we take it to the Agent Studio, where based on this conversation, we are automatically able to provide this drag and drop agent, right? So that's, again, very powerful. And you can watch all of this in a recent demo, which I put together for ITIL and SSCM, right? And then the last step is you get into this operational aspects of those agents, right? You are doing performance evaluation, you're retiring these agents, and so on and so forth. So Agent Ops is the primary framework through which we operationalize our platform, right? And you probably must have heard Jensen talk about this recently, that, hey, pretty soon all the IT departments are going to be HR departments, right? Because like what HR departments do, IT departments are going to onboard agents, they're going to kind of performance evaluate agents, they're going to retire agents, and so on and so forth. So we are literally on a cusp of a new era, if you will, right? Bob, hopefully that made sense here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one of the things that seemed pretty clear throughout that is that organizations and the operations team, they're not going to need a PhD in AI to do this. Just having conversational skill sets and basic knowledge will enable them to bring up these agents and train them and do what they need to get the information they need.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, that's the transformational part, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, we see a lot of promise in this.
Absolutely. Cool. So we've talked a little bit there about digging down into the technical side. I'm wondering if we can shift gears and look more on the business side and the business outcomes that your customers have achieved. So I'm wondering if you could maybe cover off, and I understand you can't mention customer names, but how are you measuring success in customer deployments, and what type of outcomes are your customers who are deploying the technology achieving?
Yeah. So again, we do have customers. Again, as I said, I don't want to kind of overhype this, right? So most of the engagements we have right now are POVs or POCs, right, in smaller deployments, because it's really about a kind of building that trust with the end customer because of a lot of these new technologies, right? And then also from a deployment perspective, as I said, what we call human in loop, right, is an important capability your platform needs to provide. So which we do, right? Where there's always human oversight, human in loop or human on loop, right? As they say, as a time progresses and as you build trust, right? You become human on loop, right? But yeah, we do have quite a few customers across verticals, healthcare provider, there is, a telco service provider, there is an enterprise networking customer, there's a, next generation cloud native customer who is actually doing POVs and so on. But, the right away out of the bat, where we see, the low hanging fruit is really productivity improvements, as I said, right? So you are able to cut down on the number of, practitioners you need to do the same level of job, or you are able to kind of improve your mean time to resolution, right? And plus, more importantly, as I said, you are able to feed back all those learnings back into your data fabric and consequently to the LLMs, right? So those are some of the things. Then over a period of time, what we envisage this is, you are getting into consolidating, right? Because as I said, customers have a lot of these siloed tools which are resulting into more harm than good, right? Where you are getting into this alert fatigue, which is more domain specific, right? That means they're good at an application level, they're look good at a networking level, but how do you coalesce all of this, right? So that's the second improvement we envisage happening over a period of time. And the third improvement, what we see is really, operational silos. So as I said, this is an operational intelligence platform. So it's not just IT ops, right? There is NOC ops, there is SecOps, right? Yeah. How we converge all of this practice as you kind of consolidate that data tier and build intelligence on top of that, right? And that's where you need a platform which can cater to not just one use case, but bespoke use cases, right? Where you can, have your partners, you can have your customers actually develop these use cases on their own.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I mean, it was interesting. We've done some research in the last year or so, and it was talking about where people are seeing value from their AI tools and implements. And the day one value that so many reported have been around faster time to identify, faster time to remediate issues and so forth, right? So driving that productivity. When we asked those that were a little bit more mature in using their AI, those who had had solutions deployed for a year or 2 years, it was interesting that they came back and said, that time that I'm saving is now allowing me to go work on more of the strategic initiatives for the business, right? So again, focused on driving those business outcomes. So it's great to hear that organizations are starting to get that. They're freeing up time. They're getting to reduce some of that complexity and ultimately going to enable them to work on more strategic initiatives for the business itself.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point you make, right? So because a lot of customers or practitioners feel that, hey, maybe this is like I'm going to lose my job. That's not the case, right? I mean, you can do a lot more strategic work now, given that you have now a lot more free time on your hand.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, this has been great. Unfortunately, we're out of time. So Shailesh, I want to thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much, Bob. It's been great fun talking to you. And thanks for highlighting. The questions were great. Some of the key aspects of how this agentic world is shaping. Thank you.
You got it. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in. This has been another Analyst Angle. I'm Bob Laliberte, Principal Analyst at theCUBE Research, and we'll see you again next time. For more information on Fabrix.ai, please visit their website.